For what purpose does the gentleman from Arizona seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to House Resolution 722, I call up the resolution H-Res 719, honoring the life and legacy of Charlie James Kirk.
The clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 719, resolution honoring the life and legacy of Charlie James Kirk.
Pursuant to House Resolution 722, the resolution is considered read. The resolution is to be debatable for 1 hour, equally divided and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform or their respective designees. The gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Biggs, and the gentleman from California, Mr. Garcia, each will control 30 minutes. The chair recognizes the gentleman from Arizona, Mr. Biggs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on the measure under consideration.
Without objection.
Mr. Chair, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I rise in strong support of H-Res 719, a resolution honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. Just last week on September 10th, we tragically lost a tremendous leader and friend, a cowardly, deranged, and unstable assassin who was radicalized by left-wing ideology, murdered a conservative icon over political disagreements. Charlie Kirk was an inspiration to an entire generation and will be remembered as someone who changed the very course of our country. But his most important role was as a loving husband, father, and devout Christian who shared his faith unapologetically. My thoughts and prayers are with Erica and Charlie's 2 young children. We know and appreciate that Charlie Kirk was a man committed to his faith, his family, and this nation. He dedicated his life to protecting and defending the God-given rights enshrined in our founding documents. He worked tirelessly to demonstrate how to engage in peaceful and meaningful political dialogue. The life of our republic depends on resolving political differences through spirited debate, the ballot box, and embracing the rule of law. Political violence has no place in this country. Violent rhetoric such as describing political opponents as fascists or Nazis is unacceptable. Charlie's assassination was a deliberate, targeted attack. It was meant to silence a conservative voice. This assassination was meant to instill fear and chill debate. But we have responded and will continue to respond with courage. We'll double down on the work Charlie dedicated his life to, and with the resolution today, we firmly condemn the attack that cut his life short. I thank Speaker Johnson for leading this effort to honor Charlie Kirk, and I encourage my colleagues to join me in supporting this legislation, and I reserve.
The gentleman reserves. Mr. Garcia is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as may consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise today to speak on the principles that bind us together as a nation. First and foremost, we must acknowledge the human cost of this horrific tragedy. A wife has lost her husband, children have lost their father, a family has been shattered by senseless violence. And whatever our personal political views, there should be no hesitation in extending deep sympathy to Charlie Kirk's loved ones, family, and friends. We also stand here today to reaffirm a principle that runs deeper than politics. Political violence has no place in the United States of America. Our democracy rests on a fragile but enduring promise that disagreements are to be aired through speech, through debate, and through the ballot box, not through intimidation, not through violence, and not through bloodshed. That promise is enshrined in the Constitution, which protects freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. Precisely because the framers understood, as we all know, that a democracy cannot function without the ability to argue, to disagree, and sometimes offend each other without fear of retribution. And that principle, of course, cuts both ways. We cannot claim to defend free speech if we only protect words we find comfortable or agreeable or polite. The test of our commitment to the First Amendment is not whether we defend the speech we like, it's whether we defend the speech we dislike. Our Constitution demands that we find a way to live together in freedom, even when our visions for the country might differ. Democracy requires that we resolve our differences not by force, but by persuasion, not by threats, but by votes, not by silencing votes, but by answering them. So today, we all join together to mourn the Kirk family. Let's recommit ourselves to the freedoms guaranteed in our Constitution. And thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Arizona, my colleague, Mr. Gosar.
Gentleman is recognized.
I thank the gentleman from Arizona. Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong support of HRES 719, honoring the life and legacy of Charlie James Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a patriot, a Christian, a tireless activist who traveled America engaging young people in civil discourse. Charlie was doing what he loved, building a platform to share his faith in Jesus Christ and welcoming peaceful political dialogue and public debate before his life was cut short by a radicalized monster. Charlie considered Arizona his home, but he poured out his heart and soul into America, a country he so loved. He was a force of nature. He changed the course and direction of this country. Charlie was also my friend. Words cannot describe the loss I feel, that we feel. His voice, conviction, and friendship will be dearly missed. America will never be the same. We owe Charlie this honor. As he had asked that this resolution help to ensure, and this resolution helps to ensure, Charlie will be forever remembered by his courage and faith in Jesus Christ. Godspeed, my friend. I yield back.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from California reserves.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from North Carolina.
Gentlelady from
Mrs.
North
Fox.
Carolina is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank my colleague for yielding. Mr. Speaker, Charlie Kirk stood for the open exchange of our ideas, our God-given freedoms, and spirited debate that challenged people to view the issues of the day in a different light. He reminded us to remain rooted in our faith and to seek God's wisdom every day. Civil society lost one of its most vocal defenders. There's no question about it. But let me say this. Charlie Kirk's work and impact are far from over. Every day, men and women are rallying to carry on the mantle that he once carried. Mr. Speaker, that is a powerful testament to his impact upon the world. I pray that God gives his wife, Erica, his children, and his family continued comfort. I support the resolution before us today and urge my colleagues to do the same, and I yield back.
Gentleman from Arizona reserves. Gentleman from California reserves.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentlelady from Wyoming, Ms. Hageman.
Gentlelady from Wyoming is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of HRES 719, honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. I had the honor of working with Charlie over the last several years, and he gave voice to so many young people. He was outspoken about his faith and conservative values and dedicated his life to engaging people in respectful and intelligent debate. He left a mark on this great country and will be forever missed. What happened on September 12, 2025 was a violent political assassination that was an attack on the very freedoms that Charlie lived and fought to protect. Today, we must honor Charlie by recommitting ourselves to what he stood for: respectful, open dialogue, faith, family, truth, and freedom. Let Charlie's death not deepen our divisions, but be the spark that unites us. May we reject political violence wherever it comes from and restore civility. Mr. Chairman, I urge my colleagues to support this resolution to honor Charlie's life, to affirm the right to freely engage in public speech, and to resolve that America will stand undeterred by violence. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman from Arizona reserves. Gentleman from California
Reserves.
reserves. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield to myself such time as I may consume. So, what did Charlie do that was so unique? Charlie invited people to come up to meet and debate him openly and without hostility or ridicule. He would go to college campus. They'd do a pop-up tent. He'd sit there, and there'd be invariably a large crowd. And he would say, if you disagree with me, we want you to come up first and come to the front of the line. And then he would have that debate, and invariably he'd win. Why would he win? Because Charlie was a smart guy. Charlie was prepared. Charlie knew the answers. The most other incredible thing, if you ever wanted to see a good set of debates, when Charlie was in Oxford University debating, that was absolutely phenomenal, and I encourage all to watch that. I'll reserve, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from California.
Reserve.
Gentleman from California reserved. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield such time as he may consume to the Honorable Speaker of the House, my friend from Louisiana.
Does the gentleman yield 1 minute?
I'm sorry, 1 minute. Yes, of course. Mike Johnson.
Gentleman from Louisiana is recognized for 1 minute.
I think my dear friend from Arizona, it's been a tough time in Arizona, and my colleague Andy Biggs has done a great job in leading people who are shaken, and I will say that people all over this country are shaken. Mr. Speaker, this has been a tough week in the country. I think I've spoken at 3 or 4 vigils already. I'll be attending our late friend Charlie Kirk's funeral on Sunday, as many of us will, to pay what will be our last respects. But the honor of his memory will go on. The last week has been difficult because people are shaken by this in a way that we've not seen the country moved in quite some time. I've described it as if a shadow has been cast across the country by the untimely death of our dear friend, and the way it was done in such a hateful, heinous manner online for people to view. It's been disturbing. My heart's gone out in particular to all the students around this country who are so closely associated with Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point. There are 3,500 plus chapters of Turning Point, universities, college campuses, high school campuses across America. And so many of those students felt personally connected to Charlie because his voice resonated with them, and it helped inform their worldview and the way they see politics and society. And when he was lost in such an abrupt and tragic manner, they felt it to their core. And I've been so burdened and disturbed for that. I've been praying for all those kids, untold number of young people around the country who are so disturbed and frankly need trauma counseling themselves from what they've just seen and witnessed. But in the midst of all this, the thing that encourages me is that I believe in the same promises of Scripture that Charlie did. And I've been reminded a lot of the passage of Scripture that says, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness cannot overcome it. Some translations of the Bible say the darkness cannot comprehend it. And I think that's true. And what I've said to all these students and what I've shared in these vigils is the same refrain. To summarize, the best way to honor the legacy of this singular voice in our culture, not just in the conservative movement, but in the recent history of America in the last several decades. The best way to honor the work and the legacy and the ministry of Charlie Kirk is to do what he did, and that is to advance the principles that he advanced and to adopt his approach. What I mean by that is the principles that Charlie advanced were the good things. Scripture talks about we focus on the noble and praiseworthy, the good. And Charlie did that. He focused on things like faith and family and freedom and virtue and honor and patriotism. Charlie believed in America. He believed in the promise of America, in the creed of America, that we're all made in the image of God, the self-evident truth that God is the one that gives us our rights and not the government, and that those principles are worth fighting for. Charlie used to quote Ronald Reagan, as I do all the time. Reagan reminded us freedom is not inherited in the bloodstream. It has to be fought for and protected and taught and passed along to the generations that come behind us so that they will know the same liberty and opportunity and security that too many of us have taken for granted too often. And Charlie believed that. So he advanced those principles every single day in every venue that he was able. But he did it in a manner that we should emulate. Because when I tell the young people that they should adopt the practices and the manner, adopt the approach of Charlie Kirk, what I mean by that is that he was never motivated by hatred for someone on the other side of that debate. Charlie, to the contrary, was motivated by love. because he believed in what Scripture says. There are these three things that remain: faith, hope, and love is the greatest of all. Love overcomes, love conquers. And that's what motivated our friend. And so even though he could defeat anybody in a debate, so often, and I saw this myself, when he would vanquish someone in a policy argument, he was the first person after that to reach out a hand of friendship or offer an arm around the shoulder of someone who he had just defeated in a contest. Why? Because it wasn't about winning the policy. It wasn't about, at the end of the day, really, the policy arguments. It was about the people. And Charlie loved vigorous debate, but he loved people more. That is the legacy of our friend. A lot of things have been said about him, and when someone is on the air, when they're a ubiquitous voice in all forms of media all the time, 24 hours a day, you can go cherry pick one line or phrase or something that they said in a long context or a long discussion, and you can pick anything out and make someone portray them to be something that they were not. But the people who were doing that did not know Charlie Kirk. And all of us who did will attest. Every single person who spent any time with Charlie Kirk will tell you that he was a good and godly man. Not a perfect man. None of us are. There was only one ever perfect man, and he was God and man. But Charlie Kirk was a good man who loved his fellow man and gave his life literally in the pursuit of advancing truth. And so the very least that we can do is honor him, and especially at a time in the country when people are anxious and frightened. In moments like this, when political instability and fear are pervasive, it's incumbent upon leaders to step forward and stand in the breach and do what is right. And so by voting for this resolution today, we're making a strong statement on behalf of the Congress. We're telling our constituents, for one thing, that political violence, but also the glorification and celebration of that violence, are profoundly wrong, and that goes against everything we stand for as Americans. Charlie stood for exactly the opposite. He stood for what was good in America, what is virtuous, what is worthy of protection and preservation, and we honor his memory by doing this simple act of passing this resolution. I can't imagine that anyone would vote against it or vote present or pretend as though this is not exactly the right thing to do. So I certainly hope that we can pass this resolution unanimously today, just as it should be passed. And I thank again my dear friend and colleague, Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona. Our hearts go out to the people of Arizona, as they do to everyone who is mourning this death. But I will tell you this, the truth that Charlie advanced will go forward more loudly and more profoundly than it ever has before, and that's the encouragement we have. With that, I yield back.
Reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from California.
Reserve. Thank you.
Gentleman from California reserved. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Louisiana, the majority leader, my friend Mr. Steve Scalise.
Gentleman from Louisiana is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank my friend from Arizona for yielding. Mr. Speaker, we still have heavy hearts. We're still mourning the loss of our friend Charlie Kirk, who was such an inspirational leader to millions across this country. And as we've seen since his horrific assassination, he inspired not only people here in America, but all around the world. As you see the outpouring of love. And Charlie was a man who had so much love for other people. He had love for our country. Charlie talked about why it was so important that we debate our differences, something that shouldn't be a novel issue, Mr. Speaker, something that is part of the foundation of what makes this country great and unique, what separates America from so many other failed examples of government, because we are that experiment in self-governance, in democracy. And part of that ability to self-govern is that we're going to have disagreements, and that we have the ability to express those disagreements with each other, but in a civil way, in a way where it doesn't lead to political violence. And in times like this, we reflect on a lot of things, but more than anything, Mr. Speaker, we lean on our faith. And Charlie Kirk had tremendous faith. You know, when I look above the Speaker's rostrum, it says right there, here in the People's House, "In God we trust." And it's times like this where we really do need to trust in God, because God knows the answers. Charlie believes strongly in God, and that faith in God is what will get us through tough times like this. In fact, Charlie talked a number of times about how he would want to be remembered, and he talked about how he would want to be remembered for his courage in his faith. And what an example he was for faith for so many young people. You look at college campuses all across this country right now, and you see mourning, but you see more young people driven to get involved in this process. Turning Point has had requests from over 50,000 people since Charlie Kirk's assassination to start new chapters on college or high school campuses. This movement that Charlie started is just getting started. It will only grow, and his incredibly strong widow, Erica, who was just named the head of Turning Point to continue that legacy, has vowed to make sure that what Charlie stood for, what he represented, the movement that Charlie Kirk built will endure. It will grow, and it will continue to inspire millions more people to want to get involved in government, want to question leadership, want to maybe question their own views, the things they might have been taught by people in schools that had ulterior motives, that might have been trying to indoctrinate them into some other viewpoint, so that now they had the power and the courage to think for themselves. How powerful is that? Those are the things that Charlie left behind that will endure, Mr. Speaker. And so this resolution is so important to remember that legacy. Remember that this was a young man, still a young man, but even younger at 18, a young student with an idea that said, what's happening in the schools is wrong. What needs to be taught is something broader. We need to get back to a respect for each other's differences of opinion. And that's what drove him to start a movement at such a young age. Let all young people be inspired by that recognition that the power of ideas still can move a nation. That's what Charlie Kirk reminded all of us. And Mr. Speaker, we're never going to forget that. We're never going to forget the legacy of Charlie Kirk, but that legacy will live on and only grow stronger. God bless you, Charlie Kirk. Yield back.
Reserve.
Gentleman from Arizona reserves. Gentleman from California reserves. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cloud.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. As I heard the news, the horrific news of the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I was on my way to speak to a group of pastors who had come here to tour the Capitol and take in our beloved national capital. And I couldn't help in that moment to be reminded of Hebrews 11, which people of faith understand to be the Hall of Fame of faith. And it goes through the chapter and explains all the great feats of faith, people like Abraham, Moses, Samson, and David. And it talks about how they, through faith, conquered kingdoms, administered justice, gained what was promised. But then it goes on, and it continues, and it said there were others who were tortured, refusing to be released so they may gain an even better resurrection. Some faced jeers and floggings, even chains and imprisonment. And it goes on to say the world was not worthy of them. The world was not worthy of Charlie Kirk. He spoke truths that we understand that we can build a life upon, but he also understood that they were truths that we could build a nation upon. And he, more than any, conveyed those things with clarity, and especially to a generation who had been taught moral relativism and been taught that truth could not be found. He spoke very clearly and with compassion and human dignity. Above all, beyond the courage, beyond his faith, and beyond his policy, he had the courage to make a difference, courage to stand, and I hope that we continue with that same courage as we continue to serve the people of this great nation. Let's remember his family as well. God bless.
Gentleman from Arizona reserves. Gentleman from California reserves. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 1 minute to the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Harris.
Gentleman from North Carolina is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you for yielding. Mr. Speaker, America has hit a moral crossroad. One side celebrates the wicked murder of a faithful patriot, while the other side recognizes the sanctity of life and the beauty of thinking and speaking freely. We are headed towards a precipice with no return. If we can't even agree that murder is wrong, we've moved beyond politics. We're debating whether society itself should survive. The shooter last week wanted to silence Charlie. Not just silence him, but everything he represents: faith, family, and freedom. Folks are beginning to speak up and take a stand against evil for good. They're real threats to all that makes America great. In the face of evil ideologies that choose violence, villainization, and hate, we must choose a different path, the one Charlie chose, that of civil discourse and love of our neighbors. Mr. Speaker, Charlie Kirk understood that freedom is only one generation away from extinction, and so he ignited a love of country and God in a younger generation, inspiring us all as he did so. May today's vote be a small symbol of an awakening taking place across our nation. I yield back.
Reserve.
Gentleman from Arizona reserves. Gentleman from California reserves. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I yield to the gentlelady from Colorado, Ms. Boebert, 1 minute.
Gentlelady from Colorado is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much to the gentleman from Arizona for honoring our friend Charlie Kirk. This has truly been a troubling week. This has been a very tough time for all of us, especially for Erica Kirk, Charlie's children, the family at Turning Point. And the legacy that Charlie has left behind is truly remarkable. Charlie is leaving a legacy that we will all continue to carry on and move forward with, of faith, of freedom, of love, of our constitutional values, to have civil conversations, disagreements. And it's interesting that my friend died doing what he loved most: hearing people, loving people, giving them the opportunity to speak their thoughts. He literally gave people his platform. We're honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk, a courageous American patriot whose unwavering faith and love for Jesus inspired millions.
Yield an additional 30 seconds.
Gentleman recognized for an additional minute.
Charlie's deep love for Jesus guided his actions, evident in his daily scripture study and fearless proclamation of the gospel. His assassination was a tragic loss, but his legacy endures, calling us to speak truth with courage and stand firm in faith. Charlie, we love you. Erica, we stand with you. We congratulate you on your new position, and may many, many more come to know the love of God and Jesus as their Lord through this heinous act. I yield.
Yeah, I reserve.
Gentleman from Arizona reserves. Gentleman from California reserves. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
May I inquire how much time we have left?
1.5 minutes.
18 and a half minutes? That's beautiful. Yeah. With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Pfluger.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support of the resolution honoring the life and legacy of Charlie Kirk. Charlie was a man of God. He was a loving husband and a father and an unrelenting advocate for the Constitution, for American free speech, and for his belief, Christian belief. I had the honor of knowing Charlie, but also serving with Charlie on the Air Force Academy Board of Visitors. You know, as we started our meeting, we talked about the love of country, we talked about patriotism, and he asked a question. His question to the Air Force Academy was, do you teach a course on American exceptionalism? Do you teach a course on loving this country, on why it is the greatest country in the world? Because he said, these men and women who are about to graduate, be commissioned as officers in the Air and Space Force that are willing to give their lives in the defense of this country should know why they love this country. They should know why this is the greatest country on earth, why they're willing to die for it. I thought it was an incredible question. We toured the Air Force Academy Chapel, and I'm going to challenge our Department of War, I'm going to challenge our country to finish that chapel as a symbol of the spiritual aspect of this country. And I'm going to challenge everyone that hasn't watched Charlie's message about how this country was founded on Christian principles to watch that, to learn about the founding of this country and the spiritual roots. And that Air Force Academy Chapel, having now been delayed for almost 8 or 9 years, is important to finish so that we can get that spiritual aspect back into the lives of our military, our warfighters, and those who are graduating. Charlie, we love you. Your legacy will stand firm in our minds, and I am absolutely convinced that your legacy will have a lasting impact on this country. I yield back.
Mr. Speaker, I'm prepared to close.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from California.
No additional speakers. I'm prepared to close as well.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized to close.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'll just...
Gentleman, then. Does the gentleman from California wish to close at this time? Or reserve?
Okay.
Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from Arizona is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard a lot about Charlie Kirk, and rightfully so, and we've heard this important resolution today, and I mentioned our love and prayers to Charlie's wonderful wife, Erica, and their children. Erica said the other day when she was speaking, she said that this mission, this program that Charlie was undertaking was not going to be stopped because of his assassination, that it was going to grow bigger and stronger, and that it would be unleashed even more. And so I'll just point out that what's happened in the last few days is I've been in contact with my other friends at the Turning Point. More than 50,000 new chapters have been applied for all over the country. And I know that there was one at I'll just describe it as a mid-Atlantic university. They had their initial interest meeting and had more than 100 students show up at that. That's what's happening around this country. And this tragedy out of tragedy has been born, I think, a hope and an understanding, not just for the theological or religiosity that Charlie brought forward, but also for the hope of American renewal and a recognition of the greatness of this nation. So that's important. I extend my condolences and my friendship also to the Turning Point USA family. I know many of those and his team, those that were closest to Charlie, some who were there when he was assassinated. I give them my heartfelt love and wish them strength as they go through and try to cope with this new dynamic in their lives. But the mission goes on. You saw the outpouring from around the world, from Tokyo and Seoul to Spain to London, literally hundreds of thousands and maybe even millions of people coming out to recognize what Charlie was. And what he was someone who had conviction in what he believed as far as his faith, his belief in family. He used to advocate for families. He said the greatest thing you do, and he would tell young people this: get married, have children. And he encouraged people to have a good life, and that was important. But he also believed in this country, and that this country allows more people to do more like that than anywhere else. And that's why we remember him so today. And it's my hope, and I join my hope with the Speaker of the House of Representatives, that this resolution passes in a unanimous fashion. And so, Mr. Speaker, I yield back the balance of my time. God bless Charlie.
Balance of all time has been yielded back pursuant to House Resolution 722. The previous question is ordered on the resolution and preamble. The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The resolution is agreed to.
Mr. Speaker, I request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. Those favoring a vote by the yeas and nays will rise. Sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed.